All right, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Nitty's video by now, which dropped in the middle of the night. Here's my statement. This is all I'm going to say on it. I'm not going to debate it. I'm not going to defend myself any further. I am not going to be talking about this any further. The people who have been blocked, who I wanted to block, have been blocked. The relationships I dissolved. This is my final statement on the whole thing and part that I played in it. So let's get into it. By now, I am sure many of you have seen Nitty's video about a creator that has been at the center of much controversy in Canadian political TikTok, Pathtowhere. First and foremost, no one knew, not one of us. None of us supports this, and I, for one, would not have sat at the same table if I had known. And just to set the record straight, I have never had a close relationship with Pathtowhere. I became aware of him as a content creator a month before the election. He was invited out to dinner with a bunch of other people who create content, and he was a part of a big content creator group that worked on defeating the Conservatives for the election. That's it. Now, apparently there is much more to the story. However, it is not mine to tell. Going forward, I will not be associated with Pathtowhere. As for if I believe the other accusations by people online, I cannot conclude definitively without concrete proof. And these people have been caught lying about so many things, including me, and things that I supposedly have done and said which are not true, and other things along the way that I really don't believe anyone anymore about anything. I was standing up for an autistic man who was being railroaded for not conforming to socially acceptable neurotypical privilege. With the information I had at the time, I would do it again. Autistic people struggle every minute of every day with being ostracized, being made out to be pariahs for not being able to navigate social cues and interactions. As we all saw, the stigmatization they face daily makes them push to the edges of the disability community continually. When I see lack of consideration for accommodations, I will always speak out. I have been doing this since my kids entered public school and will continue. Secondly, I stood up and spoke out about the anti-black racism that a black woman faced when she pointed out a popular woman's white woman feminism. This very big piece of the puzzle was conveniently overlooked and erased from the conversation. What's really funny here is that black people told me this is what would happen, and they weren't surprised at all. I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. What everyone plays off as drama and left-wing infighting was actually a case of anti-black racism and misogynoir that not one ally wants to talk about, to the point that I have been accused of tokenizing a black person, which, by the way, suggesting a black woman can't think for herself and decide who they do and don't stand with them is in fact misogynoir. Also, let's not forget that the white woman at the center of the doxing of a black woman left the app, came back, admitted she was racist and her behavior was white fragility, and she was welcomed back with open arms, while the black woman is still being dragged and will never come back to the app because of the tide of racism she experienced at the hands of people she trusted. Third, I've had a very large trans creator make a video naming me as unsafe while knowing I would never see it, weaponizing a massive platform against me without having all the information. I have and continue to stand with the trans community. I have had and continue to have many personal connections to the 2S LGBTQI+ community. I have sought counsel with trans folks on and off the app. There is a frustration within their own community about the subject matter discussed. I've since seen other large creators talk about it on TikTok, large trans creators talk about it on TikTok. The assumption is that I deliberately set out to cause harm when I took my cues from the community, just a different part of the community, the less acceptable part. I guess the live I was in where that discussion was being had about the trans community had in fact at least 3 other trans people, a couple of queer men, and many queer people in the comment section. Those were the people I was taking my cues from. In fact, a trans woman has been involved from the very beginning, but again, nobody talks about that because it doesn't fit the narrative. I spoke with that individual yesterday, and we talked about how invisible and invalidated they have felt through this whole thing. I find it interesting that while people are speaking of feeling identities are being erased, a trans woman who was directly involved and was actually erased and treated as if they didn't exist, even by a trans activist with a large following. It's the hypocrisy for me. Fourth, people have been pressuring me behind the scenes to apologize for saying I won't hate men and that isn't feminism. I will not. I maintain that if you think that that's feminism, you are wrong. White woman feminism is about patriarchy. Its focus is equity with white men, or even holding the balance of power in a hierarchical way. That isn't what feminism is. Feminism is equity and equality for all genders and all ethnicities. It is matriarchal, not patriarchal. It is not about seizing power from men. It is about a fair and equal and equitable distribution of power. What I've seen growing more and more is a form of pink patriarchy, where white women want to seize power and subjugate men or erase them entirely. I have sons, a husband, and a father. I will not hate them. As we always say about Christianity, if your God requires you to hate, then you need a new God. If your ideology requires hatred to fuel it, you need a new ideology. That doesn't mean I don't support, listen to, and believe women. It means I go case by case. It's not blanketed, no matter what. Fifth, I'm angry, saddened, and feel deeply betrayed by many I considered friends. What this whole situation has taught me is that nobody is perfect, no matter your political ideology. I mean, it's almost like political ideology is becoming a new form of religion. XYZ are good causes, and I support XYZ. So if I support XYZ and XYZ are good causes, then that makes me a good person, no matter what. Anyone who questions that or points out the hypocrisy of that gets voted off the island or stoned in the town square. Lastly, when you work a program of recovery, there's a tool that you use to pull apart resentments, to examine the situation and your role in it and why you feel the way you do about it. You look at how the resentment affected you, what parts of your ego it touched, money, power, prestige, what harms to others came from it, and what you could have done differently next time. I made amends directly where I needed to in 2 minor cases, did my searching in Fearless Marlin Inventory 2 weeks ago. I'm wondering if anyone else even ran any part of their behavior past anyone else outside of the echo chamber in the last 2 weeks. Where I am complicit and will totally own my product publicly is that I have been aware of this toxic cyberbullying culture in our algorithm for quite some time now. I knew about all the clipboards, the burn books, Discord attack campaigns since shortly after I arrived and that started on this app. And I did and said nothing. I looked the other way because I was afraid of being targeted. But as we know, it doesn't matter because they always come for you eventually. So I make amends to the Canadian TikTok algo. It was wrong for me to turn a blind eye to all the bullying previously, and going forward, I will stand up for what's right, not do what's convenient. Anyways, this is my final words on the whole fucked up mess. I am sorry that you, the followers, were dragged into the whole thing. The whole thing feels dirty and gross. I never thought people could stoop to such low levels to tear each other apart. Going forward, my own online profile will be changing drastically. I will continue to produce thoughtful, educational, informative content, but I will not become entwined. Still not entirely sure I'll even continue on TikTok. The problems here seem to far outweigh the benefits at this point. I will keep you all posted. Thanks for listening, Mslotuslady.